Communal Deadlock and a Way to Solve It by Babasaheb Ambedkar. 5. Proposals for Solution of the Communal Problem. Having made my position clear on certain preliminary points, I will now proceed to deal with the subject. The communal problem raises three questions. A. The question of representation in the legislature. B. The question of representation in the executive. And C. The question of representation in the services. A. Representation in public services. To take the last question first, this can hardly be said to be a subject of controversy. The principle that all communities should be represented in public services in a prescribed proportion and no single community should be allowed to have a monopoly has been accepted by the Government of India. This principle has been embodied in the Government of India resolutions of 1934 and 1943, and rules to carry it have been laid down. It has even been prescribed that any appointment made contrary to the rules shall be deemed to be null and void. All that is necessary is to convert administrative practice into statutory obligation. This can be done by adding a schedule to the Government of India Act, which will include the provisions contained in these resolutions and similar provisions for the different provinces and make the schedule part of the law of the Constitution. B. Representation in the executive. This question raises 3 points. 1. The quantum of representation in the executive. 2. The nature of the executive. And 3. The method of filling the places in the executive. 1. Quantum of representation. For the solution of this question, the principle which should be adopted is that the representation of the Hindus, the Muslims, and the scheduled caste should be equal to the quantum of their representation in the legislature. With regard to the other minorities such as the Sikhs, Indian Christian, and Anglo-Indians, it is difficult to give them representation in the executive in strict proportion to their representation in the legislature. This difficulty arises largely from the smallness of their numbers. If they are to get representation in the executive in exact proportion to their numbers, the executive would have to be enlarged to a fantastic degree. All that can be done, therefore, is to reserve a seat or two for them in the cabinet for their representation, and so establish a convention that they will get a full portion of representation in the corps of parliamentary secretaries, and that they will have to be raised when the new constitution comes into existence. 2. Nature of the executive. In the constitution of the executive, I would propose the adoption of the following principles. 1. It must be recognized that in a country like India, where there is a perpetual antipathy between the majority and the minorities, and on which account the danger of communal discrimination by majority against minorities forms an ever-present menace to the minorities, the executive power assumes far greater importance than the legislative power. 2. In view of 1 above, the system under which a party which has secured a majority at the poll is deemed entitled to form a government on the presumption that it has the confidence of the majority is untenable in Indian conditions. The majority in India is a communal majority and not a political majority. That being the difference, the presumption that arises in England cannot be regarded as a valid presumption in the conditions of India. 3. The executive should cease to be a committee of the majority party, the legislature. It should be constituted that it will have its mandate not only from the majority but also from the minorities in the legislature. 4. The executive should be non-parliamentary in the sense that it shall not be removable from the term of the legislature. 5. The executive should be parliamentary in the sense that the members of the executive shall be chosen from the members of the legislature and shall have the right to sit in the house, speak, and vote and answer questions. 3. Method of filling places. In this connection, I would propose the adoption of the following principles. A. Prime Minister as the executive head of the government should have the confidence of the whole House. B. The person representing a particular minority in the cabinet should have the confidence of the members of his community in the legislature. C. A member of the cabinet shall not be liable to be removed except on impeachment by the House on the ground of corruption or treason. Following these principles, my proposal is that the Prime Minister and the members of the cabinet from the majority community should be elected by the whole House by a single transferable vote, and that the representatives of the different minorities in the cabinet should be elected by a single transferable vote of the members of each minority community in the legislature. C. Representation in the legislature. This is the most difficult question. All other questions depend upon the solution of this question. It raises 2 points. 1. Quantum of representation, and 2. Nature of the electorate. 1. Quantum of representation. I would first put forth my proposals and then explain the principles on which they are based. The proposals are worked out in the following tables, which show the scale of representation for the different communities in British India in the central legislature as well as in the provincial legislature. Proposed ratio of representation in the legislature. The percentages of population in the following tables differ from the census figures as they have been taken after deducting the population of Aboriginal tribes. 1. Central Assembly. Community percentage of population to total and percentage of representation. Hindus 5,468. Meant to be 54.68. 40. Muslims 28.50. 32. Scheduled castes 14.30. 20. Indian Christians 1.16. 3. Sikhs 1.49. 4. Anglo-Indians 0.05. 1. 2. Bombay. Hindus 76.42. 40. Muslims 9.98. 28. Scheduled castes 9.64. 28. Indian Christians 1.75. 2. Anglo-Indians 0.07. 1. Parsis 0.44. 1. 3. Madras. Hindus 71.20. 40. Scheduled castes 16.453. 30. Muslims 7.98. 24. Indian Christians 4.10. 5. Anglo-Indians 0.06. 1. 4. Bengal. Muslims 56.50. 40. Hindus 30.03. 33. Scheduled castes 12.63. 25. Indian Christians 0.19. 1. Anglo-Indians 0.05. 1. 5. United Provinces. Hindus 62.29. 40. Scheduled castes 21.40. 29. Muslims 15.30. 29. Indian Christians 0.24. 1. Anglo-Indians 0.03. 1. 6. Punjab. Muslims 57.06. 40. Hindus 22.17. 28. Sikhs 13.22. 21. Scheduled castes 4.39. 9. Indian Christians 1.71. 2. 7. CP and Birar. Hindus 72.20. 40. Scheduled castes 20.23. 34. Muslims 5.70. 25. Indian Christians 0.36. 1. 8. Bihar. Hindus 70.76. 40. Muslims 15.05. 30. Scheduled castes 13.80, 28. Indian Christians, 1.71, 2. 9. Assam, Hindus, 45.60, 40. Muslims, 44.59, 39. Scheduled castes, 8.76, 19. Indian Christians, 0.48, 2. 10. Odisha, Hindus, 70.80, 40. Scheduled castes, 17.66, 36. Muslims, 2.01, 22. Indian Christians, 0.37, 2. 11. Sindh, Hindus, 23.08, 40. Muslims, 71.30, 40. Scheduled castes, 4.26, 19. Indian Christians, 0.29, 1. The end.